This is Ralph Brandt from the Fireside. This is going to be a little bit more of a fun story. Most people have heard of the Mason Dixon line. If you ask 100 people what it was tied to, they're going to tell you the Civil War. And it was in the Civil War the boundary between slave and free. But the Mason Dixon line was created and surveyed 100 years before. And it came out of a legal dispute that took 90 years to solve in British court. The Brits don't do anything in a hurry. It took 90 years. It grew out of a dispute between the descendants of William Penn, and that's Pennsylvania for those that don't know, and Lord Baltimore, and that was the guy who had the land grant that's now Maryland, or well, really a part of Maryland. It seems that somehow Bill Penn's land grant said that he had everything south to 39 degrees, 40 minutes, and a couple of seconds. And that's where the Mason-Dixon line is. Lord Baltimore's deed said he had everything north to the 40th parallel. Now there's about a 20-degree piece of land, wide piece of land, the length of Pennsylvania, that is contested. And I live in that 20-degree stretch. Somewhere in the early or the mid 1700s, and I'm not real good with dates, by the way. You'll find that out. This got settled. British court said Bill Penn's deed is right. The king said, well, we got to get somebody to survey that line. And there were two guys. And by the way, they weren't surveyors. They were astronomers. They were also the low bidders. And they bid to set the line. And they set it with star sights. If you go out and find any of the markers, and you pull up your GPS and take a look, you're going to find most of those markers are very close. Some of the ones that have been found to be 100 yards or more off look like they may have been moved. So who knows? People do dumb things. Anyway, these two guys go out there and with star sights set the line. I just cannot imagine setting a line within 100 feet even using star sights. These guys were good. So what would have happened if that case had gone the other way? Suppose Lord Baltimore's descendants would have won. Imagine the legal bill for that. Lawyers were born, went through law school, argued the case, retired, and died, and never saw the end of the case. Think about that. If Lord Baltimore's descendants had prevailed, my home would be in Maryland. I'm at 39 degrees and 59 minutes. I'm almost at Pennsylvania, but not quite. If you know where the borough of Dover is, the southern borough line is very close to the 40th parallel. Towns you've probably never heard of, Weigelstown and Shiloh, would be in Maryland. Dover would actually be in Pennsylvania. If you've ever traveled Route 15, the infamous always under construction road, the line on it would be just south of York Springs. Actually, you can see York Springs from the line. The Galleria Mall in York would be in Maryland. Hanover and York would be in Maryland. Washington Borough over on the Susquehanna River is on the line. As a matter of fact, it is the line, the 40th parallel. There is a marker, by the way, on Route 441, I believe it is, to that effect. And by the way, just as a little sidelight, the Susquehanna River boats could come north that far. And for those of you who want to study a little history, the Susquehanna had locks down south of York, south of Route 30. I'm trying to think about where it's at. They're near the Norman Wood Bridge. Some of the locks are actually reserved enough that you can see what they are. And by the way, they weren't very wide. A little bit of history of the area. This is Ralph Brandt from the Fireside.